Throwaway account because my real account has too many details. Also, English is not my first language, so excuse any grammatical errors. I'm not asking for righteous advice. I want to be petty and vindictive. Let's make that clear. My husband, who is 34 years old, company is throwing a retreat of sorts soon, and I, who am 27 years old, was invited. My husband, whom we will call James, started with his current team a few months ago, and ever since there is a woman on his team that has always made me uncomfortable. Technically, this woman, whom we'll call Celine, is also his boss, and she is married with kids. James lets me read his messages all the time, even keeps a spare phone at home that has access to his messenger, and I just get the vibe that this woman wants him. And I am rarely wrong when it comes to first impressions. She is the type to seek attention in their group chats and has tried to borrow my husband's jacket multiple times. He lent it to her once and we had a huge fight about it. She has also messaged him privately to borrow money and calls him pet names from time to time, both in private and group conversation. Though I trust my husband, this industry is known to have a high incidence of employees cheating on their spouses. And I also have some unresolved trauma from childhood that makes me hyper-aware when people around me change their pattern of behavior. Anyway, next weekend, I am meeting her for the first time. I need advice on what I can do to scare her off once and for all, without being rude. Something small or petty that I can say or do to let her know that I know what she's doing, or to make sure she doesn't continue her behavior. Edit. I did not expect this post to blow up, and I have thoroughly self-reflected and will behave myself and focus on my husband on the retreat. Like what some people have advised, I will bring my best self, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and will not engage negatively with her. I have spoken to my husband about this, and while we disagreed about a lot of things, he agreed that he will support me and be by my side should I need him. I have a lot of trauma, and I know it sounds like an excuse, but for the first 16 years of my life, my father and I had a good relationship until my half-brother introduced himself to me out of nowhere. He cheated on my mom and had another kid, only a year older than me, and I would have never found out if that kid didn't seek me out. All my uncles from my father's side are also cheaters, so you see, because of this, I am just wired differently. I would love to go to therapy and resolve my issues, but in our country, healthcare is incredibly expensive, and psychiatric help is even more expensive. We just can't afford it right now. I am saving up for it though and plan to go before the end of this year. The retreat is happening next weekend, so I don't have an update yet. Before that, I just wanted to take this opportunity to clear some stuff up. I do not live in the US, nor do I live in a country where HR is actually reliable. I appreciate the suggestions, but it's just far riskier for my husband to report her to HR at this time. My husband doesn't even see her asking to borrow money as inappropriate, and I know that's a whole problem altogether, but I digress. As for the amount, it's not huge, but pretty significant. Imagine a week's worth of groceries or a really nice steak dinner. In our country, his profession is the kind that's known for blatant cheating, to the point that it's even normalized. I didn't know the jacket thing was not a common thing in other countries, but it's a common relationship debate where I live. My husband and I have discussed it casually before, and he swore up and down that he will never lend anyone his jacket. She borrowed it, by the way. He didn't offer it up, if that makes any difference. I agree that the phone thing can come off as controlling, but it's really more for me so that I'm not anxious all the time. I don't have an excuse, those are just the facts. I also agree that maybe I am more angry at my husband than Celine. He didn't tell me about the jacket nor the borrowing of money. He declined it, by the way. I only found out because I checked his messages, then he freaked out when I asked him about it. Also, I am not a housewife. I also work and in fact earn more than my husband, which feeds my anxiety more if I'm being honest. I think a lot of people assumed that I sit around and just watch my husband's phone all day. I work the day shift and he works the night shift and is often going on overtime and weekend work. Another thing that feeds my anxiety, to be honest. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I need advice on what I can do to scare her off once and for all without being rude. What? Are you in high school or something? No, hun, just no. This all falls on your husband. The buck starts and ends there. Your husband is the one who should scare her off. You don't need to do anything but go to the event as if you are the happiest wife ever. Honestly, your husband is falling for this woman's games, and he needs to take a step back, or your marriage is in big trouble. Comment 2. I need advice on what I can do to scare her off once and for all, without being rude. Something small or petty that I can say or do to let her know that I know what she's doing, or to make sure she doesn't continue her behavior. What is wrong with you? Are you seriously so shallow and insecure that you are willing to risk your husband's job over your ego? Your husband needs to be the one to address this, not you. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So much has gone down since my last post. The retreat was a disaster. I met Celine, and she was just as I imagined, too friendly and always finding reasons to be near James. But the real shocker, it turns out Celine's husband, who also works at the company, has been embezzling funds. The news broke out during the retreat, and it was chaos. Everyone was questioning everyone. Trust was at an all-time low. Now Celine's been acting even weirder since her husband got caught. She's been leaning on James for support, calling him at odd hours, and it's driving me nuts. James keeps reassuring me, but I can't shake the feeling that something's off. I mean, why does she have to turn to my husband of all people? Back home, things aren't much better. I've been working overtime to save up for therapy, and the stress is piling on. James has been distant, probably because of the whole mess at work. And I can't help but remember my dad and how he changed when he was hiding his other family from us. It's like I'm reliving that betrayal all over again. I confronted James about Celine's late-night calls. He got defensive, said it was just work, but I saw the guilt in his eyes. He admitted he lent her money, the amount we could have used for my therapy sessions. I was livid. How could he not see the problem? I decided to take matters into my own hands. I couldn't just sit back and watch this unfold. I went through his phone again and found messages from Celine that crossed the line. I took screenshots and sent them to myself. I needed evidence in case things went south. Then, I did something I never thought I'd do. I messaged Celine from James's phone. I told her to back off, that her behavior was inappropriate, and it was causing issues in our marriage. She replied, shocked, thinking it was James. She apologized and promised to keep things professional. James found out and we had a huge fight. He said I invaded his privacy and made things worse. But honestly, I felt relieved. I had stood up for our marriage, even if it meant crossing a line. The next day, James came home early. He said he needed to talk. He confessed that he felt overwhelmed by Celine's dependency on him, and he didn't know how to set boundaries without causing trouble at work. He apologized for not being honest with me and for not considering my feelings. We agreed to work on our communication and to set clear boundaries with his colleagues. James also promised to support me in saving for therapy, saying we'd cut back on other expenses to make it happen. As for Celine, she's been keeping her distance. Her husband's scandal has put her under scrutiny, and she can't afford any more rumors. It's a relief. But I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. Thanks for reading this update. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but I'm hopeful we'll get through this stronger. My girlfriend takes a friendly vacation with a guy who plans to make a move on her. So I cancel their hotel and watch their friendship crumble. My girlfriend is going on a 2-week vacation with a single male friend, and I was not and still am not invited. This situation is far beyond my boundaries and expectations from a partner in a relationship. Should I consider breaking up? The issue began a couple of weeks after we became a couple. She asked if I was okay with her going on vacation with her male friend. At that time, she mentioned it was going to be a week-long trip. Since we had only been together for a month and I didn't want to come off as controlling, I said, okay, I won't appreciate it, but I can survive a week. Then about 2 weeks pass, and she informs me they booked the trip for 2 weeks. The day after, we talked, and I expressed that I was not comfortable with it at all. Her response was to explain why it was okay and why I shouldn't worry. Now, my problem with her response is that she didn't attempt to find a compromise where we could both be comfortable. She never asked if I wanted to join them, nor did she try to find a different solution. And additionally, I noticed the hotel they chose only has bathrooms with crystal clear glass doors, as well as see-through shower walls. If you're in the room while someone is using the toilet or showering, you can see everything. When I questioned her about their choice to book a hotel with such rooms, she said she hadn't noticed, nor had her friend. A few days later, I reiterated my discomfort with her going on a trip with another single male friend for 2 weeks and sharing a room with a transparent bathroom. I felt she completely disregarded my feelings and boundaries. I also pointed out that she didn't offer to find a new room, invite me on the trip, or cancel the trip. Known for clarity, I would never actually want her to cancel a trip, but her willingness to consider it would show that she cares about my feelings. And outside of this, our relationship is great. We feel appreciated and cared for by each other, regularly exchange flowers and gifts, and can have discussions without fighting. So, I'm torn 50-50 about breaking up or staying. Should I break up over this trip and her disregard for my feelings, or should I stay and work through it since the relationship is otherwise positive? And I'm having a hard time navigating the stress and anxiety that the situation is causing. And then, edit. She has known the guy for about 1.5 years. They are really just friends, and there is no doubt about that. However, they have shared a bed together multiple times before, but never done anything intimate. This is something I really believe since I have asked about it thoroughly. The hotel is for couples/newly married couples. The rooms are made for 2 people, either 1 double bed or 2 single beds. They have single beds, Shashin. We'll post the exact hotel in a couple of days when they leave. N. They booked the vacation about 1 month into the relationship. N. I really appreciate all the feedback you guys are giving me. It's all very helpful, especially when pointing out my flaws in this, seriously. Sometimes the truth is harsh, but at least it's the truth and something to learn from now. For a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If you're in the room while someone is using the toilet or showering, you can see everything. I admit I'm hardly what you'd call a globe-trotting world traveler, but where exactly TF is there a hotel where the guests pay money and still have to watch their family in the bathroom? Comment 2. Dude, sounds super obvious from here. She's going on a couples trip, especially when you mentioned she and this man have shared a bed before in the comments, and using the social pressure of you worrying about being controlling to cover for her. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for the update. So, the week has been, well, interesting, to say the least. After my last post, things took a turn for the worse. My girlfriend and her friend left for their vacation, and I was left to stew in my own thoughts. But then, I got a message from a mutual friend that changed everything. Apparently, my girlfriend's male friend had been bragging about how he was planning to finally make a move on her during this trip. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. I confronted her over text, and she denied everything, saying he was just joking. But the seed of doubt was planted, and I couldn't shake it off. In a fit of anger and jealousy, I did something I'm not proud of. I logged into her email. She had given me the password before for an emergency, and found their hotel booking. I called the hotel and canceled their reservation, telling them it was a mistake. I know, a low blow. The aftermath was immediate and intense. She called me furious, asking why I would do such a thing. I confronted her about what our friend had told me. She was shocked and denied it again, but the damage was done. She said she needed time to think and hung up. A couple of days later, she came back early from the trip. She showed up at my door, her eyes red from crying. She told me that after the reservation was canceled, they had a huge fight. Her friend confessed that he did have feelings for her and that he was planning to tell her on the trip. She was blindsided and felt betrayed by both of us. She stayed at my place that night, and we talked for hours. She admitted that she should have been more considerate of my feelings from the start, and that she was sorry for not including me in her plans. I apologized for my actions, for breaching her privacy and trust. The next day, she decided to end things with her friend. She realized that his intentions were not as pure as she thought. and that their friendship couldn't continue. As for us, we're trying to work through it. She's agreed to be more open and inclusive in her decisions, and I've promised to work on my trust issues and not to invade her privacy again. It's been a tough lesson in boundaries, trust, and respect. We're taking it one day at a time, trying to rebuild what was broken. It's not going to be easy, but we're both willing to try. Thanks for reading this far. Your support means a lot. My mother spreads lies about my marriage because I don't want kids, so I cut her off and watched her grovel for forgiveness. This is an update to a post I made 2 months ago. To summarize, in December, my mother and I had a fight where she tried to bully and manipulate me into having children, and I hung up on her after she ignored multiple attempts to change the conversation and respect my boundaries in not talking about it with her. I believe that the decision on when I have kids, or if I have kids, is between myself and my husband, which I clearly stated, and she had no right to demand such things from me, nor did I want to have that conversation with her. Anyway, I felt that after a month of not talking, we had cooled off enough to talk to each other again. I called her a month after our fight, and she didn't pick up or return my call. I called her again a week later, and again she did not pick up or return my call. Since she seemed like she was ignoring me, I decided not to call her again for the third time. I felt like she was in the wrong, and after 2 attempts of reaching out, that it was her turn to call me. I was prepared to brush this under the rug and move on with my life, but I don't think she feels the same. Yesterday we had a big religious holiday. Think Christmas level. I debated whether I should call my mom after the way she had been treating me, but felt it would be rude and not help the situation to not at least wish her a happy holiday. I call her, she picks up, says hello, and before I even have a chance to say hello back, she is talking to someone else in the background. I figured that she was in the middle of a conversation, so I waited. After 30 seconds, she switches to video chat. Here I'm thinking she wants to see me and we can reconcile. She has the camera pointed away from her, showing my little cousins having fun with their new toys and talking to my uncle and aunt. She doesn't talk to me or let anyone know that I'm on the phone, and after 3 minutes, she hangs up. I'm not sure what to do with this. Nothing is going to get fixed if we don't talk. Heck, if she wants me to apologize, which I will not, I can't do so without talking to her. I don't feel angry. I feel hurt. She disrespected my clearly stated boundaries, and now I feel like she is punishing me for standing up for myself. If she calls me in the future, I don't think I will answer her call. I want to text her right now, calling her a petty witch for not letting things go, at least for the holiday. But I feel like that would show her how hurt and frustrated I am at her actions. I will continue to talk to my dad and my siblings who still live at home, but there will be no calls to her and no forgiveness. I will not forget this, and I expect a full apology from her for her actions. I'm going full no contact with her, and in June, when another big holiday comes up, I will not be calling her. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. From the sounds of it, your mom may only want to talk to you if you are calling to tell her you are pregnant. What she doesn't understand is that, should you decide to have a baby, her current behavior may play a big factor if she will be included in her grandkids' lives. I don't know why some people are so hyper-focused on becoming grandparents, but that is their problem and not yours. Comment 2. Great plan, OP. She's being hurtful, immature, and passive-aggressive. You don't need to reach out to her ever again, and you having kids is exactly like you said, none of her business. If you ever want to post this in this sub too, it's very supportive for immature people like her are raised by narcissists. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for an update. So, after the holiday fiasco, things went from bad to worse. I thought my mom ignoring me was the peak of it, but I was wrong. A few days later, my sister called me, sounding all worried. She said that mom had been spreading rumors about me to the rest of the family, saying that my husband and I were having marital problems, and that was the real reason we didn't have kids yet. I couldn't believe it. My own mother lying about my life to make herself look like the victim in our argument. I was fuming, but I kept it together. I needed a plan. I talked to my husband, and we agreed it was time to clear the air. We invited the whole family over for dinner. Everyone except my mom. It felt wrong, but I had to do it. When they all arrived, I laid it all out. I told them about the fight, about her ignoring my calls, and about the lies she was spreading. I could see the shock on their faces. My aunt, the one who always took Mom's side, even looked ashamed. The dinner went better than I expected. My family was supportive, and they agreed that Mom was out of line. They promised to talk to her, to make her see reason. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but I knew it wasn't over. The next day, my phone blew up with messages from Mom. She was furious that I'd gone behind her back, that I'd turned the family against her. But in all those messages, not a single apology. That's when I knew I had to take a stand. I sent her one last message. I told her that until she was ready to apologize and treat me with respect, we had nothing to talk about. I blocked her number, her social media, everything. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I had to show her that I meant business. A week went by in silence. Then, out of the blue, my dad called. He said that Mom had been a mess since I cut her off, that she was finally realizing how much she'd hurt me. He asked if I would consider talking to her if she apologized. I told him I'd think about it, but I wasn't going to make any promises. The next day, she called. I unblocked her number just for that. She was crying, actually apologizing. She said she didn't know why she'd acted that way, that she was sorry for everything. It was a lot to take in. I didn't forgive her right there and then, but I told her we could start working on fixing things, slowly. It's been interesting to say the least, but I'm cautiously optimistic. We're talking again little by little. I'm not letting my guard down just yet, but maybe, just maybe, we can get past this. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.